Hey, it's Chris, Liege Games. Let's do something different here. This is important, though. So, stay tuned. What I'm going to be talking about here, it stems from a recent game that I acquired. Was sent to me by the publisher. This is called Quest Kids. You know, it's already well known out there. If you look very closely, you can already see it's got the Dice Tower seal of excellence. So why am I talking about it? Why even bother putting a video out there that talks about a game that has the Dice Tower seal of excellence? Because, you know, Dice Tower is the end-all be-all of things. But the reason I'm talking to you about this game in particular today is twofold. One, telling you about the game itself. Because for all of you parents out there, or soon-to-be parents, or parents that are looking for things that are beyond Candyland, this is an important topic. But also, this is an important topic because this is a gateway. Now, a gateway of a different kind, if you will. A gateway that gets kids more interested in playing. What do I mean by that? Well, anecdotally, why do I like this game? Right at the beginning. Because we played it for the first time, and then this is the most important thing. And this is the emotion that we are always trying to emulate. The emotion that we are trying to gravitate towards and trying to give to those around us we are especially trying to get in the hobby. And that is what I'm talking about here. My kid comes to me the next day in the car on the ride to school. Not only once during the car ride, the 12-minute car ride, twice in the car ride. He goes, "Hey, Dad, can we play this again today after school?" Right? That is what makes things special. Not because the cohesiveness of the mechanics or how beautiful the art is or how deep and labor-intensive this masterpiece was, but can you get it to the table? And this is a kid who is obsessed with his Nintendo Switch right now. He wasn't asking for an extra Nintendo Switch time. He was asking for extra game time with Dad with this game in particular. And that is what this is truly about, right? That aspect of things. What do you need to know about Quest Kids right now to figure out whether or not it's a good fit for you, your kids, wherever things are at? And the second part of this video, I'm going to be talking about two other games that I think compare well to this, and I'm going to weigh some pros and some cons of each of them to help you figure out what one would be right for you. Now, this game they sort of have this pseudo dungeon crawl-esque feel, but the basic gist of it is just that you're laying cards down on a table, and you're laying cards down on the board, and then you're just moving your character to one that's available based on the location that you're at, flipping it over and just getting the resources that it says, or cashing in the resources potentially to defeat the monster, which earns you star points, and star points are what you're supposed to total up at the end, but you know what, my kids don't actually total them up except for if they think they won, so your mileage may vary. And, you know, you've got your little health card, and you've got the ability, again, this is the interesting aspect, to give other people cards to help them out, and you get the kind cards in return, which are essentially bonuses for helping people out, and it's incentivizing kids to be nice to each other, to help each other out, to teach them a little bit of a life lesson to say you can help them out, and that's okay. And so that positive message cannot be underscored or understated enough, because we always talk about, you know, the messages sometimes that get sent with these games, and, you know, oh, kill, kill, bash, bash. And so especially a game that emphasizes something different is a little bit refreshing. So it's very nice from that aspect. Now, my biggest criticism are very superfluous things, to be very fair. I mean, my kids are 6 and 8 right now. And so when I looked at this game, I said, okay, you know, what is this going to entail? And, you know, it even flat out says right on the side here, ages 5+. Now, I'd argue with that. I mean, that's a bare minimum, but my 8-year-old, I mean, this is too simple for my 8-year-old, to be fair. I mean, you know, kid's bright, but I mean, we don't play a lot of other dad games as well. So, I mean, it's not like he's over there, one of those kids on Reddit saying, well, my kid is 6 and he just mastered Terra Mystica. He beat me last night because I just wasn't paying close enough. No, come on. Ridiculousness. But it's solid enough that, again, it's not the most complicated game he's played. It's not by any means. But I haven't always had that reaction when we've played other games. Or, again, lasting power in that sense as well. So, again, those cannot be understated how much of a benefit and a blessing that actually is with a game. I mean, it's relatively simple otherwise. I mean, it's sort of Marvel United-esque, right? You've only got the 3 different cards that you're getting. You cash them in to defeat enemies, or you get scared away from them if you can't beat them. And, you know, you have your quests, you have your kind kid cards, you're drawing from a bag, you're getting bonuses along the way. And there's a slight negative when you draw from the bag, when some of the tokens have a little minus and 1 instead of, you know, a +1 or 2. And then there's a few that are specially getting you a bonus if you happen to be the right character drawing from the bag at the right time and getting your own as opposed to someone else's. Well, then maybe you get 2 stars instead of 1, or 4 stars instead of 2. Minor things. There's a little bit of advanced ruling if you want to, you know, count up a few of the other things, and who has the most of this and who has the most of this gets a few bonus points. But, you know, again, these kid games, especially this aspect, because this is like a semi-co-op kids game, if you will. You know, I don't keep score. It's like Marvel Legendary. I do it to have fun. So, solid game from that aspect. I would probably recommend it because, like I said, it's probably a little bit too simple for my 8-year-old, even though he really enjoys it. It's probably a late 4, 5, 6, definitely maybe 7-year-old game. Because I think, you know, 7, 8, 9, you're getting to the point where they can easily handle heavier things if they're really interested. So, the one critique, again, I would say is it plays nicely, but you have a very limited set. I mean, you can get through the quest cards before you're even halfway through the game. You only have 1 set of cards enough to cover the board completely, so you're seeing every single card every single game. And so if your kids are really smart, or if you're really paying attention and you're playing with them, you know what those last couple remaining gray cards or red cards might be based on the number of monsters and the number of gems that are special out there. And so there's a little bit of that mystery surprise element that gets a little bit lost after a couple plays. Now, let's compare it to a few other things of contemporary-wise that it is better than in some aspects, and let's go, you know, a little bit different or maybe not as good at. And the 2 other games that I have right here at the time of me filming this, the first one that came to mind when I compared it to was Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. This is a classic. There is a reason that this is on pretty much every list that recommends kids games, because this has just enough. It has an ongoing evolution of strategy as you get better and as you play, but it's also very simple in the fact that, I mean, it's kind of a roll and move too, but it's got more than that, which is enticing. And you add in the expansion, and this is probably one of the best kids games of all time, period. I have no qualms about saying that. I have gotten my money's worth out of this and the expansion, and even if my kids never play them again at this point. I have a 1.5-year-old, so we'll play plenty more of this as well when he gets older. The other game that I would compare these to is the original. We're not going to talk about the sequel because that's a step up, but this is Zombie Kids Evolution. And the thing that this one does, again, the simplicity, but it takes the concept of adding things to a game and gently introducing, gently making it more complex, and then it has the huge child but also adult grasping desire in terms of secret envelopes, unlockable content as you're going along. And if you want to see a kid get excited about playing a game and you tell him he has to play it twice more or win this one in order to get the next envelope, boy howdy. So I would argue that this one, of the 3, by far and away has the most, oh, I got to play this again. But Quest Kids is probably next on that from the games that I have played with my kids over the last, you know, essentially 5 years. You know, since my oldest was much younger. But the thing that Quest Kids, I dare say, lacks is, like I said, some of that unpredictability, the chaosness, the difference between each game, because as much as there are several different elements in this game that you are managing, they're all still relatively the same every single game. I mean, you know, like I said, the quest cards run out and the monsters are all the same, and you only have 3 basic things going on, which again is not bad because they grasp it instantly once they started playing it. Even the 6-year-old had absolutely no problem, and it's language independent. There's words on there, but it's not necessary. And that's the other thing about both these games, is they are also language independent, where it's just symbology, it's roll and move-esque, and they're taking concepts that the kids can know and then turn into mastery. This game is probably a middleweight in terms of the strategy, and especially with the expansion, this one definitely takes on a life of its own in terms of the strategy. This one is probably the hardest of all of them. This is a tough game sometimes if you're playing it even with adults, where you roll and sometimes the randomness and the chaosness from it, just you lose. So it doesn't matter what you do. I mean, same thing can happen with Zombie Kids, but you're rewarded for falling forward in this game by still getting credit for, you know, potentially getting that next envelope open. There's different modes. The price point for this one and Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters especially, I mean, you're talking like 20 bucks each. This is probably one of the best things you can say about these kids games, is that this box is small, the overhead is small, the value for what it is and the ease to get this to the table is probably, again, one of the reasons that this is one of, if not the highest rated kids game that's out there, period. And so, again, for a game that I would recommend, I have absolutely no qualms about recommending this to literally everybody. Every family that had someone like anywhere from like age 4 to 6, period. So where does Quest Kids fall in there? I mean, it falls in a different niche because it's doing different things. Is one of these objectively better than the others? No. The barrier to entry for Quest Kids is probably the least in terms of strategy, because there is just less strategy, and that's okay. And that's the benefit of it. But I think it would significantly benefit from the expansion like Ghost Fighting Treasure Hunters. Although these both are arguably much more strategic, and even with the base game alone, you are a little bit more planning and a little bit more, if you don't do things right, you're going to lose sooner. I mean, Quest Kids is a no-lose game, essentially. It is. And so it's easier to introduce, especially if you have kids that are going to be more sensitive to losing or some take that or things just not going their way. Because if you have ones like mine who, especially in competitive games, have a real tough time starting out, this is a nice entry point from the Quest Kids side. The last point is, you know, for my 8-year-old right now, Quest Kids, again, like I said, is too simple. The other two are going to have more strategy, and he can actually understand and do the own strategy himself at this point, as opposed to me sort of quarterbacking. And so Quest Kids, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. And so again, how do you want to approach that? Is that a good thing where they can do it all themselves? Or is it better that you're teaching them and they're slowly growing as they're going along? Because he's not going to get any growth out of Quest Kids anymore either. But that's okay. Because, again, it's about what gets to the table. And the point that gets overlooked a lot of the time on the adult side of things is he's having a lot of fun doing it regardless. There you go. That is my thoughts, my review of Quest Kids, as well as comparisons to 2 other of its contemporaries on the kids game side of things. If you like that, let me know. You know, I'll be probably putting out another video here shortly in the next month or so, talking about just general recommendations for kids games at different ages, as well as ones that I would recommend just pretty much across the board, no matter what your kid is into in terms of games. So there you go. Little niche, but a little bit fun at the same time, because I don't get to do a lot of this on the channel. My kids don't really want to get on camera, and my wife doesn't either, so I'm stuck soliloquying for all of them by myself. Shut up, Ignite. There you go. Stay classy. Have a great day. Play some games, even if they're like this. My most played games in my collection are all kid games. My top probably almost 10 games in my collection played by play counts, logged plays, all kid games. So, you know what? If it gets played and they have fun, it's the bottom line. 'Cause Stone Cold said so. Sorry, can't resist. I'm done.